Hey guys, let me start this out by saying that, unfortunately, Stargate is one of the series I'm weaker on. Lore-wise, at least. I do absolutely love the series itself, but I'm not as knowledgeable as I am on Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, Sailor Moon, yada yada yada, you get the drill. So with that in mind, I really have tried to do a bit more research, but forgive me if I get something wrong or I seem out of sorts. I feel confident you'll let me know in the comments below if I get something wrong. The Battle of P3Y-229 was the first major engagement between the Foray and the combined allied forces of the Milky Way. The Milky Way Alliance, as I like to call them, would involve the Foray, also known as the Lanteans, or humans if you prefer, the Asgard, the Tok'ra, Jaffa, and Lucian Alliance. The Foray, effectively being ascended human beings with godlike powers, lived in a galaxy far from that of the Milky Way. The Foray galaxy was lovingly called the Home Galaxy. Upon realizing the existence of the humans in the Milky Way, the Foray would begin constructing massive fleets in order to attack and subjugate those within the Milky Way itself. For various reasons, outside the scope of this battle breakdown, the Foray would largely fail in their attempts to invade the Milky Way. That would be until they would successfully build a second supergate that linked the Milky Way with their home galaxy. Supergates are massive constructions based on the much smaller Stargates. Unlike Stargates would only allow people or things to travel through them, the Supergate would allow ships to travel massive distances. A common tactic of the Foray was to build supergates and use that area to gain a foothold for their invasion. We aren't completely sure how the construction of the second Supergate occurred. The first Supergate that was encountered was comprised of 90 individual ships which were interlinked. The first Supergate also had to utilize the conversion of matter into a singularity in order for it to be operational. We have no evidence this is how the second Supergate was powered, and the segments were much larger. It is more likely that the Foray found a different power source to power it. Before we get into the battle proper, let's take a look at a breakdown of the ships. You can skip this by going to the timestamp below, but I would suggest against it. Also, I have fancy new graphics. Again, just a note, some of the weapons that I have found may not have been available to the ships that they are on at this point in time, especially with the alliance of the Foray or Milky Way Alliance, whatever you want to call it. As I've said, I haven't watched the full series, but I have reason to believe that some of the Asgard weapons weren't available. But if you add on to that, I haven't been able to find a resource to prove that they weren't on the ship, I'm going to go ahead and name them even if they weren't there. And if there is a weapon that was not available at the time of the battle, again, definitely let me know in the comments below. I may do an updated video once I have more information. Taking a look at the Foray warship was one of the most technologically advanced vessels the Milky Way had ever seen. It boasted a primary beam weapon, Foray pulse weapons, and a complement of up to 500 Foray fighters. The primary beam weapon was one of the most devastating weapons available. Only the most advanced technology would be able to resist it without being drained completely, and the ship destroyed. As an example, the Hawk, which was a ship that was there against the Foray, would not be able to withstand a single hit. Its shields would be drained and the ship destroyed. There would be a brief recharge of the beam before it was able to be fired again, but it didn't take many times to destroy even the most advanced ships of the Alliance. In order to protect the ship from attacks on all of the other sides, the Foray pulse weapons would be situated across the ship itself. These weapons would be much less powerful than the primary pulse weapon, but still would be able to inflict massive damage. Again, another example, the standard Hawk ship would only be able to take 6 shots before its shields were completely drained. Foray fighters would be used for scouting, air support, and defense. The armaments of the fighter would be an Foray pulse cannon, and these fighters would be much easier to destroy. Like their weapons, the Foray shields were among the most powerful known. They were so strong that even ramming into them would not breach the shields themselves. It would take weapons of the ancients or the most powerful Asgard weapons to breach them. The Milky Way Alliance would have 13 Hawks, 1 O'Neill-class ship, and 2 304s. The Hawk-class ships were the weakest being fielded by the Alliance and, as stated, would be near ineffective against the Foray. The Hawk-class ship would boast 60 staff cannons, a powerful cannon that was based on the technology of the staff weapon. While used superbly for ground assaults and against lesser races, these cannons would become among the weakest weapons, as even shielding from the Foray would be able to repel them. They would also have the Naquadah? You know, I hate sci-fi names. I mean, I love sci-fi. I enjoy it. This is my passion, but names can annoy me. Anyway, they would also have Naquadah bombs, which I'm sure you're going to tell me how to say appropriately later, which are, as it says on the tin, bombs that can be used. It would also have death gliders, which are starfighters that would have mounted staff cannons, and Alkesh bombers, which would sport 2 staff cannons, plasma charges, and have a cloaking device. The O'Neill-class ship, being the most advanced ship in the Asgard fleet, sported 4 ion guns. The upgraded Asgard technology was among the most powerful in the known Milky Way galaxy. There were few ships that would be able to withstand a direct assault from them. Along with the most powerful weapon came the Asgard shielding, which could withstand attacks from even upgraded Ha'tak ships. The BC-304, also known as the Daedalus class warship, was a deep space carrier built and maintained by the Tory, one of the most advanced series of the Tory fleet. It was bolstered with 4 Asgard plasma beam weapons, again among the most advanced in the galaxy. Unlike other beams that use pulses, this weapon is superheated plasma that overloads shields and decimates the enemy ship. Additionally, the Daedalus came with 32 railguns, 16 VLS missile tubes, Mark 37 and nuclear missiles, along with the Horizon weapons platform. The Battle of P3Y-229 would more be, well, a slaughter. After the failure to deactivate the Supergate, 4 Foray warships would stream out of it. The Foray vessels would transmit a cryptic message from the Book of Origin. In response, Dr. Daniel Jackson would transmit a different verse right back to them. The Book of Origin was the religious text of the Foray themselves. Unfortunately, the Foray would power their weapons after this, and the Allied fleet would open fire. The Alliance would be absolutely no match for the Foray warships. While most of the Alliance vessels would take heavy damage from the main beam weapon, Ha'tak ships would be destroyed straight out upon being hit. Even Asgard technology, which was thought to be some of the most powerful tech, was only barely protecting against this onslaught. The ships of the Alliance would attempt to swarm, attacking from all sides, trying to find a weakness and staying out of that main beam weapon. But it would be to no avail. At the beginning of the battle, it would be only the Tory and the Asgard that would face off against the Foray, though the Lucian Alliance would arrive, albeit pretty late. But even with the backup, all ships would ultimately be cut to ribbons, with very few left disabled. The Foray warships had the capability to destroy all of their opponents, but they left some there. We can't be exactly sure why they were left to drift, but the most reasonable explanation was to spread fear among those who had survived the battle. The Foray would continue on and attempt to convert the rest of the Milky Way galaxy itself. This defeat would not only be a military disaster, but a political one. The forces of the Milky Way would never unify again. The Tory would have issues with both the Lucian Alliance and the Jaffa. They would effectively be facing the Foray alone, and that's after their entire alliance of ships could not win the battle. This was their best hope, and it failed miserably. And now they were left to fight the Foray, for all intents and purposes, alone. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. I truly hope you enjoyed. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to hit the bell and remember to both comment and rate. Guys, I will see you on the next Lore Reloaded.